Welcome to Faith and Freedom. For the next few minutes, we hope to inform, inspire, and encourage you as we discuss legal victories and challenges to your fundamental freedom and religious liberties. Faith and Freedom comes to you from Liberty Counsel, a civil liberties education and legal defense organization. Join us now as Matt Staver, founder and chairman of Liberty Counsel, explains the latest legal issues all across this country. In the courtrooms of America, Liberty Counsel is winning the battle for your constitutional freedom.
Liberty Counsel defends a pastor in Massachusetts regarding his speech in a foreign country on the issue of homosexuality. I am Matt Staver, founder and chairman of Liberty Counsel. Joining me is Matt Barber, vice president of Liberty Counsel Action. Matt, Scott Lively is a pastor in Massachusetts. We've known him for quite a long time. This week on Monday in a courtroom in Massachusetts, Liberty Counsel attorneys Harry Mahet and Steve Crampton appeared in court to defend him against a federal lawsuit brought by SMUG, the Sexual Minorities of Uganda, regarding speech that he gave several years ago while he was in Uganda regarding homosexuality. He's being charged by this group in the civil lawsuit with so-called crimes against humanity. It's an attempt to stop his speech because they're not able to do it in Uganda, they're not able to do it in the United States. They're trying to use international law to stop pro-family speech in Uganda. This is a great issue of illustrating how far this homosexual agenda wants to go to silence free speech.
Matt, you're absolutely right. And, you know, Scott Lively is a godly man. He loves people who are trapped in the homosexual lifestyle. He has been vilified like nobody, no other pro-family person I have seen in recent years. And even, you know, people at the Washington Post and elsewhere are taking part in this honest vilification of Lively, saying that he, you know, supports the, quote, kill the gays bill, and you know, just stuff that are just flat out lies. Scott Lively has never supported and adamantly opposes the execution of anybody trapped in homosexuality or otherwise, and yet they say that he helped to push this bill that would supposedly have the death penalty for people engaged in the homosexual lifestyle. Simply not true. And so they are literally trying to ruin this man, to circumvent, get around our laws here in the United States, our freedoms, in order to ruin this man. They'd like to see him in jail if they could. No question about it. I've seen many of them call for that. And this is simply because he is preaching a biblical truth about sexual morality and God's design for human sexuality.
That's right. This group that's representing SMUG, the Sexual Minorities of Uganda, is based out of New York. It's called the Center for Constitutional Rights. It's actually partially funded by George Soros, the very liberal billionaire who's funded so many left-wing projects. They're partially funding this particular organization as well. And their attempt is to literally silence him. They don't have the law in Uganda. There's no cause of action in Uganda. He didn't break any law in Uganda. He's just speaking like any other citizen is able to speak, educating pastors regarding homosexuality. He's not advocating for any thing that's negative. He's not advocating for the death penalty in that one law that was proposed. In fact, he specifically opposed it. There's no law that he broke in the United States. In fact, he'd have the First Amendment as a defense for freedom of speech. So now what they've used is international law, this amorphous crimes against humanity and other kinds of undefined, nondescript international law to try to silence him. And if they were successful, they would ultimately go after other people. Any time that you would travel around the world to speak at different events regarding homosexuality, you would ultimately be a target of these kinds of lawsuits. The good news is that in court on Monday, the judge indicated that he was very concerned about the implications this would have on the First Amendment. And no ruling yet. It's going to be a little while before the ruling comes down, but certainly expressed a lot of concern regarding the implications this could have on the First Amendment. And hopefully we'll get a good decision. We're asking the court to throw this lawsuit out of court. It's frivolous. It has no basis in law or fact.
Yeah, Matt, you often, as attorneys, you often hear attorneys talk about a frivolous lawsuit. Under the word frivolous is this lawsuit in the dictionary. I mean, this defines the term frivolous. But beyond that, Matt, really, this is legal malpractice. The fact that this case would have even been filed is in itself, I think, legal malpractice. And I personally believe that there should be sanctions for this, because they are so clearly trying to circumvent the laws of the land here and cynically and inappropriately applying this crimes against humanity law to push a political agenda with exactly zero evidence that Scott Lively did anything wrong. And I think in reading the transcript, I wasn't there in the courthouse, but in reading the judge's comments, he seemed to have kind of the palm of his hand to his forehead moment and saying, what are you doing here? To say that he seemed troubled by it, I think, based on the transcript, is a bit of an understatement too.
Yeah, I think he was troubled by it. In fact, usually, we were the ones, they filed the suit, we filed the motion to dismiss. There's 110 pages of briefing on this case, of legal argument, so there's been a massive amount of work that's gone into this matter. And then, of course, since we're the one filing the motion to dismiss, typically what happens is we're the ones that go and present the argument first, and the other side responds to it. But the judge said, even though that's the normal process, he wanted to hear from the plaintiffs first, those who filed the lawsuit, why this does not impact on the First Amendment. He put the burden on them to show how this does not impact the First Amendment. Certainly it does, and I think he's very concerned about this. And obviously, if you just think about this, if you were to file this lawsuit in the United States, what would your defense be? If someone is trying to say that you, by virtue of your speech, ought to be punished civilly or criminally, your defense would be the First Amendment. And that's exactly what they want to avoid. This particular group has been notorious for its lawsuits that it's filed against others around the world in regards to Israel. I mean, they filed lawsuits against leaders of Israel for crimes against humanity, calling them the occupiers and so forth, trying to have international war crimes come against them as well. They've been using this international law as a means to advance a very radical agenda, and now they've latched on to the issue of homosexuality, and they're using it to advance that through international law as well. This is the first of its kind ever filed in the United States like this regarding speech relative to homosexuality, and that's why it's important that we ultimately prevail in this case.
Yeah, Matt, part of the fabric of the international homosexual activist lobby, whether here in the United States or elsewhere, one of their primary tactics is to be loud and to intimidate. They even called for and in fact had activists fill the courtroom, had activist protesters outside mocking and berating Scott Lively as he walked in, Bible in hand, walked in to defend the truth of Scripture and his sharing of the gospel both here and abroad and in Uganda and elsewhere. And they yelled and mocked him and tried to intimidate him. And they are using him as an example, aren't they? The bigger picture here is that they are trying to shoot a shot over the bow of anybody else who might speak truth about homosexual sin and trying to say, if you do so, we are going to target you and you may be the next Scott Lively.
That's exactly what they're wanting to do. And this is another wake-up call. The California case with regards to the attempt there to silence counselors and prevent clients, minors, and parents from receiving counsel regarding reducing or eliminating homosexuality, that kind of law that will punish speech. This law here, or this attempt to create new law to literally punish speech, all of it is part of the agenda. This is a wake-up call, or should be a wake-up call to America. This is not a tolerance movement. This is a dominance movement. It's about clashing worldviews. It's about one winning and one losing, and they don't want to have any middle ground. They want to punish anyone that has speech to the contrary.
Well, Matt, the good news is, that we needn't be discouraged about this. Christ says that they're going to hate us because they first hated him and the truth that he stands for. So really, aren't we supposed to take joy in persecution like this? But that doesn't mean we sit down and or stand for it nonetheless.
That's true, and certainly we're defending this very vigorously. We need your prayers because this is just one of many cases that Liberty Counsel is handling around the country. And if it weren't for Liberty Counsel stepping in to defend Scott Lively, he'd be out there flapping in the wind on his own, going against a well-funded organization by George Soros, and would be out there by himself. That's why with your prayers and your financial support particularly, we're able to go to Massachusetts and defend this pastor's right to freedom of speech, to speak biblical truth. And I encourage you this year to partner with Liberty Counsel, become a regular monthly donor to Liberty Counsel. Don't get discouraged, as Matt says. Get encouraged. Get involved in the battle, the fight for the soul of America. Go to Liberty Counsel's website, lc.org. That's lc.org. You can make an online credit card contribution there as well. And ask for my book, Same-Sex Marriage, Putting Every Household at Risk. That's Same-Sex Marriage, Putting Every Household at Risk.
You have been listening to Faith and Freedom with Liberty Counsel. We hope that we have motivated you to stand up for your faith, family, and freedom. We can accomplish a lot when we work together. Get informed and get involved today. Sign up for our free monthly newsletter, The Liberator. We will send it out to you free of charge. Stay informed with our Liberty Alert email updates. Just click on the website at www.lc.org or call us at 1-800-671-1776. Tune in next time to learn more about your rights right here on Faith and Freedom.